And streaming has started.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I've got 12 p.m. By my clock here. This is the September 7th, 2021 meeting of the Asheville Civic Center Commission. So welcome. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you to our board members, our ex officio members, as well as any guests. Do we have any guests with us today that wish to make any remarks in regards to anything on the agenda?
No, Corey.
Matthew, do you have anybody?
No. This is
Okay.
We're only streaming audio. We're not doing a call-in comment.
Okay. All right. Thank you. For those of you, if it's your first meeting or if you haven't recalled, since we were trying to go in person there for a minute, but we're back still virtual. First of all, I hope everyone had a great summer. It's certainly been an interesting one. I know it has been for me. I'm sure it has been for many of you. But we are recording this meeting. It will be available on the city's website as well as the Civic Center Commission website. So if you wish to view this or see something from this later, we're happy to share it through those outlets. With that, did everyone have a chance to review the July 2021 meeting minutes? Does anybody have any additions or deletions or edits to that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the July 21 minutes.
Motion to approve, Donna.
Motion from Donna, second.
Ellis.
John Ellis, second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Just to be specific there, that was actually June. We didn't have a July meeting, if that changes.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, that was the June meeting. Yeah, it says on the agenda July, so I read it, but we actually didn't have a July meeting because of the 4th, so as is tradition. Since no one's here for public comment, there's no need for informal discussion. We do have City Councilwoman Mosley joining us, but she is dual tasking right now, so we'll skip over her portion and maybe get back to her toward the end if we have something from the city. Let's see. Is Demp on the line? I don't see him. Is he? Yeah, there's Demp. Hey, Demp. Update from the Sports Commission. Good to see you.
Good to see you, everyone. We are plugging along. Next week, we will actually be hosting our counterparts from across the state with the North Carolina Sports Association, and we're doing a diversity summit on Monday. All day, and we have some leaders coming in from Compete Sports Diversity and Feisty Media that will be helping us, along with we have some different partners who are coming in, U.S. Tennis Association, North Carolina Tennis Association, North Carolina Youth Soccer, who are also part of some of our state groups. So we're excited about that. We have our grapple that is coming up, the wrestling tournament in December, and we're looking right now at 36 teams, which is pretty exciting, coming from about 5 states. Going backward, we also have the Asheville Championship, which was announced over the summer, and that's a collaborative partnership with our friends from Kemper Lesnick. And so that will be 4 teams. That will be Minnesota, Western Kentucky, Princeton, and South Carolina. South Carolina and Western Kentucky, early indications from their pre-sales at their school sites that things are they're doing really well. We also, Chris and I are working on making sure we get Gala Gymnastics booked, and a potential multiple year extension for January. We're also in discussions with American Cornhole on how to get them back in potentially for a January event. And then we've had 3 or 4 planning meetings for the Southern Conference already. That, as you know, that's probably be a 365, 24/7 process on planning for that. So, just things are rolling along. We're actively pursuing other opportunities that might be out there, and just thank Chris and his staff for all they've done over the past year to get us through where we are and working through the COVID protocols. So that's from the Sports Commission. Any questions?
Thank you, Demp. Does anyone have any questions for Demp? Was the North Carolina Sports Association, how many people does that bring in? And was that a targeted something by CVB, or that you guys reached out to try to host that conference? I know we're making a real effort to work on that strategically. I know Marshall can speak more to that later, but was that something we brought in, or they just happened to say, hey, we're going to do it in Asheville this year?
Well, no. I'm vice chair of the North Carolina Sports Association, and we have not hosted the meeting. So we bounce around the state, and we haven't hosted the meeting since I've been here. So it was our opportunity. And then our September meeting is usually a little bit longer because we're planning for the entire year. And then we have this strategic partnership with Compete Sports Diversity. And so we decided to make it a 2-day event, and most people are coming in on Sunday, some on Saturday, but most are coming in on Sunday, so they're extending their stay. We usually have one, so the September meeting is also usually in what is deemed a destination. So it's usually either a beach or some other type location. But this is the first time it's been west of Hickory, I know, in 6 years.
Great. That's awesome. Anybody have anything for Demp? All right. Well, thank you, Demp. Keep up the good work. Excited about the new championship and all the other things you're doing with us here at the Civic Center. Up next, we have from the CVB update, Marshall Hilliard. Marshall, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to give you an update on all things Explore Asheville. We remain optimistic with the interest in group business. We had 85 new leads in the month of August. We feel that's a healthy number of new opportunities, given the fact that in August of 2019, we had a total of 88 new leads. So we're not far off from that pace pre-pandemic. We are seeing smaller events. Total rooms associated with those 85 leads this August is 17,280. With the 88 leads in August of 19, that represented a total of 25,072 room nights. So it's kind of a trend that's nationwide is smaller events. We're seeing some cancellations. I would say few, certainly nothing like a year ago and early in the pandemic, mostly related to the health field. We are continuing to do a good bit of our own travel, connecting with our clients. Connie Holliday just returned from Connect. That's a corporate trade show with planners in Tampa. Connie is also attending the LGBTQ Travel Association annual convention in Atlanta. That's a new show for us in an effort to attract more diverse audiences. Tina Porter attended the Outdoor Retailers Conference last month in Denver. Another new show as we target the outdoor industry. Tina is also attending Preview, an event that has incentive customers focused on wellness, another focus market of ours. And in a couple of weeks, I'll be attending the Conference Direct annual partner meeting. That's one of our third-party partners, and I'm focused on these key relationships with our main third parties. As Demp mentioned, we're excited about the NC Sports Association. Thanks for the lead on the business, Demp. And I'll be attending a portion of that with Demp and Tina. Lastly, next Wednesday is our annual meeting at Thomas Wolfe Auditorium. Chris, thank you and your team for all you've done to make that happen in what appears to be a pretty busy week in the community. We actually were looking for space for some time, and thank you, Chris, for coming to our rescue. That's next Wednesday, the 15th at 3 p.m. At Thomas Wolfe. So brief update from Explore Asheville. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank
you, Marshall. Really very exciting stuff. I know it's a really tough time, but the fact y'all are as busy as you are with the surge and everything that's going on, I think is a good sign. I know we're also hosting the Ocala, Florida leadership on an inner city visit. They're going to be in town this week as well. I think they get in tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe tonight. I can't remember. But but that's a, kind of interesting that some of these people are still doing the thing. Again, that's a smaller group, maybe 50 folks or so, 50 or 60, but it is interesting to see it happening. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Marshall? Okay, thank you, Marshall. Up next, we have a few new faces in the crowd today, but one of which is Daniel. Is it Cruppy or Croupy?
Croupy.
Croupy, okay. I thought that was right, and I went with the wrong one first. With the Asheville Symphony. Daniel, why don't you tell some of us who might not know you a little bit about yourself, and love to hear an update from what's going on in the symphony.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for having me today at my first one of these meetings, first of many, I'm sure. So my name is Daniel Croupy. I'm the new executive director of the Asheville Symphony, taking over most recently from the esteemed John Ellis, who served as our interim executive director for many months, thank God. I've been here officially 2 months as of yesterday, which is very exciting. Feel like I'm getting to know the community relatively well. Most recently from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I ran the Santa Fe Symphony Orchestra and Chorus for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was actually just down the road from here in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was with the Greensboro Symphony for 6 years in a couple of different capacities, and also did my graduate work there. So consider North Carolina home, and I'm very much glad to be back in the state, and especially in Asheville, which is a community my wife and I have long loved and admired. And particularly excited to be with Asheville Symphony, which is an institution I have admired for many years as well. So as far as a quick update goes regarding Asheville Symphony, we are planning our return to live orchestral performance this month on September 19th at Pack Square Park for a big outdoor celebration. That's really an arts industry-wide celebration, but of course featuring the full symphony orchestra with a soloist. That'll be at 7:00 p.m. at the park. Free concert, family-friendly, and sort of hybrid of classical and pops. Would love for all of you to come out and join us. Should be really fun. On November 20th, we actually return to live performance at Thomas Wolfe Auditorium. So thanks, Chris, for all your efforts to help make that possible. Our season runs through June this year, including a New Year's Eve celebration. This is a bit unusual for us. Typically, we start indoors in September and go through May. Obviously, we decided to punt a little bit and start a little late and end a little late given the COVID crisis. And I'm very glad we made that decision now as we've seen the spike in cases. So I think we'll be well equipped by November to still open. In accordance with Cherokee Center rules, we are requiring vaccination or proof of testing within 72 hours of the event for all of our indoor activities. In accordance with county rules, we'll be requiring masks as well of anyone that enters the space. We're going to be keeping our concert short, so it's not going to be a 2.5 hour long extravaganza. We're keeping the programming pretty tight and possibly operating without an intermission for at least the first concert on the season, just to minimize the amount of time anyone is spending in the space, and especially congregating together in small areas such as the bathrooms. We are still planning on post-concert receptions for now. We might reevaluate that at a later date, depending on how the caseload is looking. In case you're interested in how people are trending for live performances, we've heard a really enthusiastic response to the outdoor concert. It's getting a lot of traction in the community. We're expecting, the last time we did this was about 8,000 people. I'm not sure we're going to quite attract that number this time given the conditions. But I would expect between 3,000 and 5,000 at the outdoor concert on September 19th. For the indoor series, our subscriptions are actually trending really well. So we still have a little bit of time left in our subscription renewal process, and we're already over 70% of goal. And those numbers were based on our last full year pre-COVID. So the subscription numbers are actually looking pretty strong, and we've seen a really enthusiastic response from the dedicated base with more subs coming in every day. Philanthropy is also on track this year, which is great news. Seems like there's a lot of excitement surrounding the return to symphonic music. And other than that, just getting up to speed on my end and meeting other community leaders. So I'd love the opportunity to connect with each of you one-on-one at some point if I have not done so already.
Great, Daniel. Yeah, it's nice to meet you and welcome back to North Carolina, I should say. And thanks for that update. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Daniel? All right. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, let's definitely connect soon. Up next, we have the general manager's report. Chris, do you want to kick it off, or do you want to introduce Laura and have her jump in?
Yeah, I'll intro Laura. So Laura is our ticket office finance guru. We're currently reclassifying her position to be an assistant GM over business services, which would be food and beverage, tickets, marketing, kind of everything that is money related, if you will. But she's been our box office manager for 5 years, I believe. 6 years. And John Ellis, I had a question about a month ago about how tickets were trending. And so we invited her to join in and give a report.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be on here and look forward to meeting those of you that I haven't yet. So I looked at a few events that had been recurring events. And what we're seeing is it really depends on the type of event. You know, as you all know, we had widespread panic, went on sale back in June. We sold out in about 15, 20 minutes, all 3 events. Looking at the demographics of that, 18 to 34-year-olds made up 31%, 35 to 44 were 32%, 55 and over were only 13%. Looking at sort of, you know, how many people are coming in from out of town. For widespread, it was huge. Only 19% were local. So we definitely had a lot of people coming in from outside. Again, looking at other events, Bill Engvall, I did a comparison. We had him here back in 2019, same month in October. Total tickets out were about 1,100. We are currently at 700 tickets sold. A month before the concert date, back in 19, we were at 1,000. So we're about 300 tickets short right now. The local versus out of town, we were 51% local in 2019, 44% for this this coming show this month or in October. And currently the demographics, 75% of those coming are 45 and older. So that you know, Bill Engvall, definitely an older demographic. Little Feet, same thing. They were here in 2019. We'll be back in January of 22, and our numbers are way down for that. Total tickets out in 19 were 1,500. We're only at about 300 this time around. Local percentage in 19 was 52 versus 37%. 50% of the demographic is 55 and over. So that's the one thing that I'm hearing in the industry is that the younger people definitely more eager to attend events. Once we put in our vaccine mask mandates, we did see quite a few people request refunds. We gave them a week's notice to ask, you know, refund just because they had not agreed to this. We now have anytime you buy a ticket, you have to agree to these protocols. So no more refunds. But same thing with that. We saw, you know, Jeff Dunham, I think it's been on sale for 3 years now because we've rescheduled it about 4 times. Very few refund requests versus, you know, Pat Metheny, Little Feet had some. It's those shows that attract an older population that we're seeing more hesitance to return. You know, I ran some numbers on Billy Strings, Avett Brothers, very few refund requests, but of those, only for Billy Strings, only 16% are 55 and older, and Avett Brothers, only 17% are 55 and older. So it's yeah, we had 2 postponements this week, a kids show, Blippi the musical. And again, I think that gray area with kids, you know, they can't get vaccines yet. We can't make them wear a mask. So I think those populations, the very young and the older, are probably a little more hesitant. And John, I think you were the one asking, do you anything else that maybe I can answer for you?
No, I think you've kind of covered the demographics. The conclusion you're drawing is age is a determinant. Okay.
Yeah, and even the people from out of the area, I think those numbers, people are still coming in from outside the area. It's just with a lower, for Little Feet, it was 52% local in 2019 versus 30%. So that's not huge based on the fact that we're 1,200 seats less. So people are still coming for concerts here. It's just, I think, depending on the type of event.
And you talked about the box office informing people. I'm assuming the majority of your sales are online. So is that only through the Civic Center website? But what about all the other Ticketmaster outlets? How are you ensuring that's conveyed?
That is correct. So we're taking double approach. So Ticketmaster, anytime there's a cancellation, postponement, customer service with Ticketmaster automatically emails everyone that has a ticket to them. And then Matthew also gets our list, and we tend to send a more personalized email to all of them, just explaining what happened and what recourses they might have.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Laura from anybody? Thank you, Laura. We appreciate that update. Chris, it looks like you've got the rest of the manager's report there.
Yep. Well, so Laura kind of touched on it. Back when this was going to be in August, it would have been about 2 days after we announced our new policy, but now we're a month in. So upcoming events, COVID protocols, we are requiring a proof of vaccination and or negative tests within 72 hours of showtime for all events coming up here. The exceptions being children 11 and under, since they can't prove proof of vaccination, we're just requiring a mask the entire time that they're in the building. Masks are actually required at this point for everybody in the building regardless due to the county mandate. It's been going pretty well. We've only had 4 shows so far, 3 nights with Widespread Panic and a night with Primus. We've been offering rapid testing at the door through a partner that we found. So if you can't get your tests in time and you're not vaccinated or you can't provide proof, we can test you right then and there. And we've had a good number of people show up, believe it or not, with vaccination cards without their name on it, or incompletes, or, oh, I forgot it in the car. And so, we're able to just send them 20 feet away to go get a test real quick, and it's not a complete inconvenience, which has been nice. We've tested just under 2,000 people through those 4 shows in rapid testing and only had 7 positives come back, which we do provide a refund right away for anybody that tests positive, either in that 72-hour window. If they go to Walgreens, for example, and it comes back positive, they provide us proof, we'll refund, or if they test positive at the door, we'll refund them. The process has been amazingly smooth to get people in and out through that process, and we're refining it every day. Tomorrow for our show with Hailstorm, we'll do it again, and it'll be a slightly smaller operation because we're expecting less people, but we expect that a higher percentage of that crowd is going to need to be tested versus Widespread Panic and Primus. We've been testing about, I think it's been 18% of the crowd, give or take, on average, is what has required a test on site. It's been going well. I'd be curious if anybody has any thoughts, or if you've been to events that have required proof of vaccination or negative tests, what your thoughts were. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what people think about that policy. And our plan is it's open-ended. We have no set end date right now. No, we're going to reevaluate date. We're just kind of like anything new. We're saying that that's the requirement for now until trends start to change.
Do you know any numbers on how many, if anyone got COVID from a show?
Nothing from our show, but there was a study done on Lollapalooza, which it was outdoors, but they did proof of vaccination and negative tests, and they weren't able to provide, and they did a lot of contact tracing and some other things that came from that over in Chicago. And there was no significant transmission that occurred at that festival. And that's kind of been our North Star beacon whenever it comes to this policy and having the events go on in the building.
Chris, are you requiring also an ID to go along with vaccination, and also a sense of how people are doing this? Are they bringing their cards? Is it a photo on their phone? What are you finding?
Yep. So we are not announcing in the advance that you have to have a proof of ID as well, just to help make sure that people aren't taking a picture of someone else's ID and someone else's vaccination card. But we're allowing a photocopy, the actual card, or a picture of the card. And then when you show up to get your wristband, which is how we're doing it, we verify and then we wristband you so the ticket takers know to let you in. We're asking for an ID, so we match the name to the name, and then double check that there's either one shot or 2 shots, depending on the type of shot. And it's been pretty smooth so far. And I will say, kind of to piggyback on Laura, I've been doing a lot of wristbanding. I've probably wristbanded like 4,000 or 5,000 people myself, it feels like. And it's been a ton of South Carolina and Georgia IDs that I've been seeing more than anywhere else.
And what's the cost of the rapid testing? You found a partner, and
we did. So we found a partner. Right now, we're in a really great place. The testing is free. So we're no cost to the customer, no cost to us, the venue, no cost to the promoter. We have to pay for our tent operation, permits, and staffing, but they're covering the nurses and the testing. And how they're doing that is there's a COVID surge testing money through the CARES Act right now that as long as they're doing PCR testing, they can have that reimbursed through the CARES Act. So they're rapid testing everybody, but they're also PCR testing them. So we get the rapid results within 10 minutes. The PCR results come back 24 to 48 hours later, which is obviously too late for the show, but we're able to then compare later and make sure that the rapid tests have been accurate. So far, we haven't had different numbers from PCR compared to rapids. So as long as that trend continues, we feel safe moving forward with it. They're day by day as far as their availability at this point. They've committed through the end of this week for us. They have not committed for October, November events yet. It really depends on what the outbreak looks like and what the requirements are for their health center testing sites that they're running for a few different counties. But hopefully we can keep this at least through December or January with the free testing at the door. It's been great because we'd have to turn away a large number of people if we didn't have that right now.
And last question, I guess, how much time is this adding to inboarding an audience? And are you asking people to arrive early? What's your protocol there?
Well, we've always been telling people to arrive early, but now they actually listen, which is awesome. So we started opening up, our testing operation opens 2.5 hours prior to show. Doors have still been opening 1 hour prior to show. With the exception of Widespread Panic, we opened that 2 hours prior. But we saw all 3 nights of those shows that we only had 1,000 people in at one hour prior. So we really weren't moving it that much faster. So we've gone back to the standard 1 hour prior to doors. But the testing site opens early, so you can get verified and then go grab a drink or a meal or whatever downtown and then come back. Or you can just come and go straight in if it's 1 hour later. But the actual process to get verified, we're calling that the fast pass. It takes about 3-4 minutes. If you're getting the tests, it takes about 15.
And I'm sorry, I lied. That was not my last question. What are you doing with respect to concessions? Because I know the exemption is you don't have to be masked if you're drinking or eating. How are you handling that?
That we're not enforcing masks while people are drinking or eating right now. We're selling concessions pretty much just like usual. We dropped the plexiglass. A lot of restaurants have dropped the plexi. We're not doing cash or cashless, just to make sure that we've got, there's equity concerns about doing credit only, for example. Concessions is pretty much normal. We're trying to get people to only eat at their seat. realistically, though, when we've got 4,000 or 5,000 people in here, it's just not physically possible to enforce masking inside on every single person.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Shay.
I just wanted, did I hear you say correctly that you have had no positive cases reported from any of the events that we've had at the Civic Center?
Right, but there's no like hard data on that. So like for that to happen, like you would have had to come to the show free of COVID and then contracted it within a few days and then reported it to your local county health that you feel like the place that you got it was here. And so the odds of somebody doing that are so very low. Like that's the only reason that is. I mean, I would not be surprised if if there's been transmission, but there hasn't been anything significant enough to make it statistical, if you will.
And then my second question to that is, do we have a company that is actually doing follow-up from the concerts and from the events to check those statistics?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions on the COVID protocols? Okay. All right, so I'll go into the updates for the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium. We have wrapped up our rigging and lighting upgrades, which was, for those of you that remember, we ran into challenges that we were no longer to access the attic per OSHA, which is how we did most of our lighting and operated the HVAC in the facility. So we've changed the rigging so that there's now trussing in the room that you'll see next time you're here, and that truss comes down into the seats so we can handle all things lighting and show production from the stage or from the seats without going into the attic. That project wrapped up on Thursday last week. HVAC project is underway. They've started, but they're not complete yet. That's targeted to end the week of September 19th, or excuse me, the week of September 17th. So we should be wrapped up there with controllable HVAC in the seating chamber and on the stage. Any questions on that, John?
No, that's great, Chris. And those of you who have been on the commission that long, this has been a long time coming. So we're excited to have those changes. But John, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll just tell Chris I'll just have to come up with some new questions to ask at every meeting.
Well, to be clear, Corey, this is the HVAC side is just getting us back to where we were in November of 2019. So it is by no means like a new HVAC system, not even close to like the COVID HVAC systems you may read about. It's just operational again. Yeah.
What about the sides, the outside, the improvements there, Chris? Is that almost finished? It looks really good. Every time I ride by there, I'm looking at the update from our office, but is that almost completed?
Yeah, it's essentially wrapped up. They're going to be closed down with the project here in about 2 weeks, and they'll remobilize in December. They've done all the windows and the facade from the front door around to the smoking patio, and they're going to do some epoxy work on the 2 balconies below this week and next week. But the storefront is what it's called, and the doors that lead from the concourse out to the smoking patio, those were back ordered significantly, so that project's not going to happen until December. But the same group will remobilize, come in and handle those last, it's about 40 feet in December, and then we'll be wrapped up with that project. Upcoming events, like Laura mentioned, right, the last week or so has been more cancellations than add-ons, unfortunately. So we lost Peppa Pig, a kids event, Blippi, which was supposed to be this Friday, another kids event. We'll be announcing either today, tomorrow, or the next day. Kenny G is rescheduling from late September this month, or this year, to May of 2022. Diamond Cheer and Dance, which is a youth cheerleading event in January, they have canceled due to our COVID policies. They only want to adhere to masking, and so they've decided to wait until 2023. We've got 3 country events this fall that are on the fence that might be canceling also due to our COVID policies. I think that's going to happen either here this week or next week if it does cancel. So we're having a lot more cancellations right now than add-ons. We do have a big arena event that we'll be adding on in November. Next week we'll be announcing. The craft fair of the Southern Highlands was to come back in October of 2021. Their board is kind of split right now due to our COVID policies onto whether or not they'll return in October or wait till the summer. So they're voting on that next week to determine if they're going to host that event or not. So it's been a lot of ups and downs right now in upcoming events. I will say, as far as what is currently booked, we are way busier than we were pre-pandemic. So as long as we can get those people in the door safely and do all the things we're doing, we should have a better budget year than normal. Fingers crossed.
Chris, for those acts that are canceling because of your policies, is it because of disagreement with it? They don't want to abide by it? Have you gotten any feedback on that?
It's a mix. Some of it is they don't want to abide by it. Some of it is they don't feel like we should be mandating the vaccines, that that's not our role. And a little bit of it is they're just worried that their crowd won't want to come, and therefore they won't sell as many tickets and it won't make it worthwhile. I mean, Hailstorm's a really great example, which is tomorrow when we announced this policy. We had a huge wave of refunds, if I remember correctly, and ticket sales have essentially flatlined for that show since. I don't think I doubt we've moved more than 2 or 4 tickets a day since then.
Okay.
Cody Jinks is another really good example. On October 9th, that show we had last in, I think, 2019, sold out on the on sale in about 30 minutes. It went on sale 2 days after we announced the new policy. We've only sold 2,500 tickets to it. And we were expecting to be able to do 2 nights of that show back in May, whenever we booked it. So it's definitely demo related, and age on one side, but then also the demographic of the type of show has a heavy effect on sales right now. I also did want to add in 2 other things. She was on the phone briefly. She may be gone now. So we recently hired a new assistant GM over events and operation. Her name's Chastity Wilson. She came to us from the Florence Civic Center down in South Carolina. She started 1 week before Widespread, so we broke her in with a nice 3-night run of Widespread Panic. But she's been here. She's been great. We'll get her intro to you guys maybe next month at the meeting. She's out of town today. And then also a really big one for us, and this is 100% due to Laura here on the phone. We recently signed a contract with the United States Tennis Association to be their box office for all home events for the next year and potentially 2 years. What that means is that through the Harris Cherokee Center box office, and mostly through Laura, we'll operate all of their ticket sales regardless of where a Fed Cup, or well, now it's called a Billie Jean King Cup, or a Davis Cup takes place. So if they're in San Diego or Texas or here in Asheville or Florida or wherever they go, all the ticket operations will route through here. And Laura will go down to wherever that event is, and she'll help run ticket operations for that week and then come back here. But we earn a retainer for that, and then depending on how many events there are in a given year, and if we go 2 years, that contract has a value of anywhere from like $25,000 to about $200,000. So it's a really big contract for us and keeps a really tight relationship with the USTA, which is great. I know that was an add-on on the agenda, but any questions about that?
Chris, I have a general question. First of all, congratulations on the shuttered venue grant. Have you heard anything about being invited for a supplemental?
I'll toss that one to Laura. She's been running point on that.
So yeah, I actually submitted the application last week, and they had said they were going to start alerting people this week. So hopefully, but we are eligible for about another 800,000. So fingers crossed that we get the supplemental.
Thank you.
That would put the total to what, about 2.4, right?
2.4, yep.
right. Any other questions for me before we go to back to Corey? All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Thank y'all for all the hard work you've been doing too. I know it's from the protocol to keeping these events on track. I mean, it's like double time for doing anything indoor right now, especially the magnitude and size y'all are doing it. So I know this working for the chamber. We, even trying to do an outdoor event with maybe 100 people or doing a golf tournament, it's a whole, it's triple the staff time to make sure everything gets pulled off safely and effectively. So huge props to you and the staff. Before we get to new business, does any commissioner have old business they would like to discuss or any updates from things we've talked about? If not, and hearing none, I will move on to new business. Donna Bailey, as everyone here knows, we voted in June, despite some of my reservations over having been the chair 2 years in a row. For better or for worse, you guys were put enough confidence in me, or no one else stepped up to volunteer, whichever one it was, to be the chair for another year. After some consideration, Donna has agreed that she would actually be willing to be nominated to be the chair for this coming fiscal year, and I would take a seat back to vice chair in her stead. And I am more than happy and willing to do that, as I think I've served a long enough term here, and I don't want to turn this Democratic Advisory Board into a dictatorship by any means. So, Chris, I don't know procedurally. I know Janice isn't here, or we don't have our legal expert with us, but is there anything procedurally we would need to do to make that switch, since we've already voted on the actual officer rundown?
I checked with the clerk's office about it, and they just said that we would need a vote. So essentially a motion to swap roles and a vote of approval.
Donnie, you correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm speaking out of turn, feel free to speak up. But I am happy to hand over the reins now. And if you don't have an objection, I will make the motion that Donna Bailey serve as chair of the Civic Center Commission. I'm happy to nominate myself for vice chair unless someone else wants to do it for the rest of the year. Do we have a second? I guess we need a second and a vote, right, Chris?
Correct.
I second you for vice chair, Corey.
Thank you, Shay. All in favor of the new slate of officers for the fiscal year 21-22 as amended, can we get an aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone oppose? Okay. Well, thank you, Donna. I appreciate it. And I don't have an official gavel to hand over. Well, maybe I do. Do I have one? Did Joel give me one? I feel like I do, don't I? It might be at my office. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think we have it somewhere. Or maybe you took it, but we have one.
If you don't have it, I think I do have one at my office. And I don't know if it came from this board or a different one, but I think I have it. And I'll be happy to hand that to Donna the next time I see her in person.
Gosh, who will that be?
Who knows? But with that, Madam Chair, I will hand the reins over to you and let you take over the agenda from here.
Okay. Now I have to pull up the agenda. What I found was I actually keep losing the site when I pull up the agenda. Let me. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm going to let you continue because I can't pull it up without cutting you all off. If you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I know one thing we were talking about are vacancies. I believe we have one vacancy from the city currently. Bill Jones resigned. Is there another one, Chris, I'm not aware of?
No, this is the only one.
Okay, that's what I thought. So it looks like we got a full board here too, which is great. Or we did at one point. So is there any other vacancy or anything we need to discuss there? Just make sure people know about it and encourage your friends and those who are involved to apply.
Yep.
Okay. Donna, you wanted to discuss committees. I believe you brought this up as an addition to the agenda for today about us having some subcommittees in relation to things around the Civic Center.
Yeah, one of the things that Chris and I talked about was kind of breaking down topics and asking people if they'll work directly on that topic instead of being a free-for-all all the time, so to speak. And also giving people the opportunity to focus on it and see if we can help find solutions. I think and also, what's your passion? John obviously is going to be the symphony. Those kinds of things, and so that perhaps we could help get more done for Chris and the convention center, and also our relationships with with the Sports Authority, with the CVB, how important they are. So that was kind of what Chris and I talked about. Chris, do you have anything more to say about that topic?
I would just add that, so this got started, Donna was asking about Thomas Wolfe updates, and this was probably pre almost everyone on this commission, but there was the creation of the Thomas Wolfe Task Force, which was essentially a subcommittee that helped kind of rally up support on the council level, ultimately, to get funding to do the concept design that we put together for the Thomas Wolfe project. And so similar veins, Donna's asking how can we, the commission, help the facility move forward, and what can we do? And really, so far, like at least in my time here in 8 or 9 years, anytime it's been a small subcommittee, that's when real actions happened. Dating way back to the 2012, 13, and 14 renovations, there were little groups that got together that really were able to help start moving the needle locally in the politics side of the world, that we could then all jump on and really help ride towards renovation dollars or just general perception around town. And so Donna came up with a Thomas Wolfe subcommittee, which exists but doesn't have any current members in it, a public relations committee that could help around just general PR with the facility, but also in anything that does happen with Thomas Wolfe, and community partner opportunities, which is 3 ideas. It doesn't have to be those 3, but community partner ideas can, one are either helping get events or maybe helping with community sponsorships that either come to the building or things that we should be sponsoring as the building. Mm-hmm. Like how can we tie into the community in a better way, and to really just kind of start these conversations to see what the group's thinking.
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just from past experience as well, Chris, and my time on the board, the Thomas Wolfe subcommittee has kind of been ad hoc. It's just kind of been a coalition of sorts of a few of us who really taken a little extra time and effort to put some things together, along with you and city staff too, of course. I think that's a necessary one until we get back on track with the upgrades that auditorium so desperately needs. I think that is one that we essentially need to do. I know that the city has some restrictions around formal subcommittee formation. Am I making that up? I want to say that's a city rule. I'm not sure. But we could definitely have ad hoc or working groups on certain things without any sort of formal approval. I'm pretty sure. But now I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, you're spot on. That's how the Thomas Wolfe group was created. Formal subcommittees are approved by city council, but small working groups can happen as the board desires.
Yeah, so I don't know if that would put a restriction on us calling them subcommittees. If we just want to call them something else, but sort of have them operate in the same way. I'm all for it, and I think it's a great idea.
Okay. I think the best way to go about it is we'll have Chris put out an email, and we'll have those 3 committees to start with, and unless somebody has one that they really think, should be included. And I would hope that each member of the board would say, this is the one that I think I can contribute the most to, or that's my passion. Does that work for everybody? Okay. And what I'd like to do is, Chris, either you or you could assign somebody to be on those 3 committees, and that's up to you. You would know best who's most effective, might be the most effective in those 3 from your camp, so to speak.
Makes sense. And I can run a stab at a description for each of the three, which can be completely adjusted or transformed by said subcommittee, but it'll be a good starter anyway, a description of what it would be.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on this approach or suggestions? Okay, so then Chris will get that out shortly. I did manage, if you, you know, I have an iPad, I have an Mac, I have it all, so I could get my agenda back up on a different device. So if there's nothing further, our next regular meeting will be October the 5th at 12 o'clock, virtual again. Any other comments? All right.
I guess not.
We can adjourn the meeting.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Great to talk to everybody.